Welcome to the deep dive. If you're like most of us, you realize cybersecurity moves, well, incredibly fast.
Oh, absolutely. Warp speed is putting it mildly sometimes.
Yeah, new threats pop up daily, often, like faster than you can even hit update.
Mm.
Yet it's surprising how often we find ourselves clinging to security habits that feel maybe a bit ancient, like using a dial-up modem in today's world.
It's true. Comfort zones are hard to leave, even digital ones.
So for this deep dive, our mission is pretty clear. We're digging into what we're calling 10 digital dinosaurs.
Nice name.
Right. These are those common but really flawed security practices that honestly just don't cut it anymore in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
We'll break down why they're ineffective and, crucially, give you the modern, smarter strategies you really need to protect your digital life.
And it's such a critical conversation to have. These old habits stick around partly because of comfort, like you said, or just inertia.
Yeah, just doing what we've always done.
Exactly. But often it's also a lack of awareness about how much the threats themselves have changed.
Right.
So what's really vital today isn't just knowing what needs changing, but really understanding why. Why these shifts are fundamental for, actual resilient security, moving from just reacting to being genuinely proactive.
All right, let's jump in. Our first digital dinosaur. This one might surprise some folks. It's traditional antivirus software.
Ah, yes, the old guard.
For decades, it felt like our digital bodyguard,
Right.
right? So what gives? Why isn't it enough anymore?
Well, it was definitely a good start back in the day.
Yeah.
But its limitations are just really stark now. Traditional antivirus, the signature-based kind,
Yeah.
it basically works by looking for known bad guys, like having a most wanted list.
Okay.
The problem is today's threats are masters of disguise. We're talking sneaky zero-day exploits.
Those are the brand new ones, right? Before fixes even out.
Precisely. Or things like fileless malware, which kind of lives in your computer's memory and doesn't leave the usual footprints. Old antivirus is often clueless against that.
Yeah.
And it does little against really convincing phishing emails either. Thinking traditional AV alone protects you now. It's like expecting a paper umbrella to hold up in a hurricane.
Wow, okay. Not good.
Not good at all. So to really upgrade your game, you need to look at endpoint detection and response, or EDR.
EDR. Oh,
Think of
cool.
EDR more like a cyber Sherlock Holmes on your device. It's constantly looking for suspicious behavior, not just known bad files.
Ah, behavior. That's the key difference.
Exactly. Like if a program suddenly tries to access files it shouldn't, even if the program itself isn't on a known blacklist.
Yeah.
And crucially, you need to pair EDR with keeping everything updated religiously.
Right. Updates are still key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And ongoing awareness training, especially helping people spot those tricky phishing attempts.
So the big takeaway here is just relying on that old school antivirus, it leaves you really exposed. Modern threats need smarter, real-time protection that understands behavior.
You got it. Dynamic threats need dynamic defense.
Okay, dinosaur number 2. This one's maybe more of a mindset, the whole castle and moat security idea.
Ah, perimeter defense, the classic fortress model.
Yeah, building strong walls, firewalls, intrusion detection right at the edge. It sounds solid, right? Like locking down your castle. But you're saying this is a dinosaur too. Why?
It's a classic case of focusing only on the front gate while attackers are finding, secret tunnels or bribing the guards.
Huh, okay.
The fundamental flaw is assuming all threats come from outside. But the reality today, insider threats, malicious or accidental stolen credentials, and increasingly, supply chain attacks.
Where they attack through a trusted partner.
Exactly. They just walk right past your moat and walls because they either start an inside or they have a key. Your fancy firewall doesn't even see them coming sometimes.
Oof. Okay, so what's the modern way?
The real game changer is embracing what's called zero trust security.
Zero trust. Heard that term a lot lately.
It's a huge shift. Instead of trust but verify, it's never trust, always verify.
Always verify, even internal stuff.
Everything.
Yeah.
Every user, every device, whether they're inside your network or out, they have to prove who they are and that they have permission for every single thing they try to access. Think of it like needing a ticket and ID check for every single ride at the amusement park, not just at the main gate.
That sounds intense, but thorough.
It is. And alongside that, network segmentation is vital. Dividing your network into smaller, isolated zones.
So if one part gets breached.
It doesn't mean the whole kingdom falls. The intruders are contained. It limits the damage significantly.
Okay, so it's a complete rethink. The perimeter isn't the be-all and end-all. Trust needs constant verification everywhere.
Absolutely. Assume breach, verify always.
This next one, it feels almost sneaky, maybe even clever sometimes, playing hide and seek with security.
Security through obscurity. Yeah, I know.
Like hiding your admin page at some weird URL like super secreted minlog in 123, or maybe even trying to invent your own custom encryption. What's the actual problem with trying to be clever like that?
Well, the main problem is hackers aren't really playing your game of hide and seek. They have automated tools, scanners. They're not just randomly guessing URLs.
They'll find it anyway.
Oh, they'll find it. And if you've rolled your own encryption, they'll likely crack it, probably faster than you think. And then, yeah, they might post it online just for laughs or bragging rights.
Ouch.
Security through obscurity is basically a myth. It's like hiding your spare key under the welcome mat. Maybe it works for a bit, but it's not real security.
So what's the alternative? Just put it out there.
Not quite put it out there, but build it strong, assuming they will find it. Use transparent, battle-tested security methods. Rely on established, well-vetted cryptographic standards, public protocols, things peer-reviewed by experts.
Okay.
Design your systems, assuming the bad guys already know the URL, they might even know how it's built, and then make it bulletproof anyway, with proper authentication, authorization, input validation, all the standard best practices.
So strength comes from robust, open, proven designs, not from trying to hide flaws.
Exactly. Real security stands up to scrutiny. It doesn't rely on being hidden.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right, moving on. Let's talk about something that can feel really diligent, very hands-on. But it's another dinosaur. Manually patching systems.
Ah, yes. The slow and steady approach.
Right, it feels responsible. Taking your time, testing things carefully, applying patches yourself. What's the issue there? Why is that outdated?
The core issue is, well, it's just too slow. Speed is everything here.
Speed.
Manual patching creates delays. And every hour, every day, a known vulnerability isn't patched. That's an open door. Hackers have automated scanners looking for exactly these unpatched systems, often within hours of a vulnerability being announced.
Hours? Wow.
Yeah, they're basically sending out RSVPs to the exploit party before you've even finished testing the patch. It's like trying to fix a leaky boat with duct tape while it's already ticking on water fast.
That's a vivid image. So the delay is the killer.
It really is. Many, many breaches happen by exploiting vulnerabilities where a patch was actually available but just hadn't been applied yet. Manual processes just can't keep pace with the sheer volume and speed of patches needed today.
So what's the upgrade? Automation.
Absolutely. You need automated patch management systems, tools that can identify, test, and deploy patches much, much faster. Slap on those updates almost as soon as they're available and verified.
Should you still test them?
Oh, definitely. Testing in a sandbox or a staging environment first is crucial to make sure the patch doesn't break anything.
Right.
But the key is streamlining that whole process so testing doesn't become a huge bottleneck. Don't delay deployment for weeks. The goal is to slam that window of opportunity shut before attackers can crawl through it.
Got it. Rapid automated patching isn't just nice, it's essential. Close the gaps fast.
Non-negotiable these days, really.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and dive into passwords. Some common practices here are surprisingly counterproductive. First up, forcing password changes every, say, 30, 60, or 90 days.
Ah, the mandatory password rotation dance.
Yeah, lots of companies still do this. It feels like it should make things more secure, right? Fresh password, fresh start. But you're saying no.
It often does the exact opposite, actually.
Right.
While the intention is good, the reality of user behavior is, well, not great.
What do people do?
When forced to change constantly, people take shortcuts. They make tiny, predictable changes, like changing password 123 to password 124.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Or maybe just adding the month.
Exactly. Or worse, they start reusing the same simple password everywhere because it's just too much hassle to remember new complex ones all the time. They might cycle through 2 or 3 favorites.
So it creates patterns hackers can guess.
Precisely. It's the cybersecurity equivalent of rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Looks busy, achieves nothing useful, and might even make things easier for the attacker.
Okay, so if forced changes are bad, what's the right approach? Never change passwords.
Not quite never. The upgrade is to prioritize length and uniqueness. Create really long, strong passphrases.
Quick sentences.
Kind of. Think 12, maybe 16 characters or even longer. A string of unrelated words is often great mind. Correct Horth battery staple was a classic example. Hard for computers to guess, but easier for you to remember than P at $0.7%.
Right.
And crucially, use a password manager. Let it generate and store unique, complex passwords for every single site.
So the manager remembers the random stuff.
Exactly. And then, the key shift. You only need to manually change a password if you suspect it's been compromised, like if a site announces a breach. Otherwise, let that long, unique password generated by your manager live on.
That's a huge mindset shift. Strength from length and the uniqueness, not just frequent changes.
That's the modern thinking, backed by research from places like NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology.
Okay, building on that, what about all those rules? Must have an uppercase, a lowercase, a number, a special character.
The complexity checklist.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Do those rules actually make passwords stronger, or do they just make them annoying and maybe, ironically, less secure?
Well, again, the intention is good, but they often lead to those predictable patterns we just talked about.
Like the P at Sword 1 example.
Exactly like that. It ticks all the boxes, uppercase P, lowercase number 0, special character as manwar. But it's incredibly common, and one of the first things automated cracking tools will try, it's actually a terrible password.
Huh, I never thought of it that way.
Now, what else happens when passwords become too hard to remember because of complex rules?
Uh-oh. Sticky notes.
Bingo. People write them down. On sticky notes under the keyboard, in a file on their desktop called passwords.txt. It completely defeats the purpose.
Right. So what's the recommendation here then? No rules.
It's more about focusing on the right rule, which is length. For passwords you need to memorize yourself, prioritize length 12, 16, 20 characters. That adds far more strength against guessing than forced complexity.
So length beats complexity for memorability.
For human memorization, yes.
Yeah.
Now, for everything else, where you don't need to remember it, let your password manager go wild.
Let it create the super random complex ones.
Yeah, let it generate 25 character strings of utter gibberish with all the symbols you want. The manager handles it. So you get simplicity for the ones you have to remember, combined with maximum complexity handled by the tool for everything else.
Okay, length and uniqueness first. Then let password managers handle the complex stuff. Got it.
That's the way.
All right, our next digital dinosaur is one that, honestly, just a few years ago felt like a pretty solid security step up. SMS-based two-factor authentication, 2FA via text message.
The text code.
Seemed like a good idea, but now you're calling it a dinosaur. What happened? What are the vulnerabilities?
Yeah, it was definitely better than just a password. But it's become, well, dangerously unreliable. It's like locking your front door but leaving the key under the doormat.
Why? What's the risk with SMS?
The main risks are things like SIM swapping.
SIM swapping, what's that?
That's where attackers trick or bribe your mobile phone carrier into transferring your phone number over to a SIM card they control.
They can do that.
They can, and they do. It's become one of hackers' favorite party tricks. If they control your number, they get your SMS codes. Game over. There are also other attacks, like intercepting messages or exploiting flaws in the underlying phone network signaling system.
Wow. That's unsettling.
It is. We've seen major breaches, people losing access to crypto accounts, bank accounts, all because the attacker bypassed 2FA by taking over the phone number via SIM swap.
Okay, so if SMS is out, what should we use instead for that second factor?
The much safer options are authenticator apps. Things like Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, Authy.
The ones that generate the rotating codes on your phone.
Exactly. Those codes are generated directly on your device using a time-based algorithm. They don't rely on the insecure SMS network. So SIM swapping won't help the attacker get those codes.
That sounds much better.
It is. And if you want the gold standard, the absolute best, physical security keys.
Like a YubiKey, those little USB things.
Precisely. You plug it in or tap it via NFC. It's basically unphishable and resistant to remote attacks. It's like the VIP pass to your digital club. Hard to forge, hard to steal remotely.
Okay, so ditch SMS 2FA, move to authenticator apps, and for really critical stuff, consider a physical key.
That's the upgrade path. SMS is just too risky now.
Right. Now, what about those classic security questions? When you forget your password, what's your first pet's name? What street did you grow up on?
The personal trivia round.
Yeah. Are they actually secure or just another dinosaur?
Oh, definitely a dinosaur. A fossil, even. Think about it. Where does that information often live?
Facebook, Instagram, public records.
Exactly. Your first pet's name is probably an acute throwback post. Your mother's maiden name might be findable through genealogy sites or public records. This stuff is often floating around online, or worse, it's already been leaked in some massive data breach.
So it's easy for attackers to find the answers.
Often, yes. Relying on security questions is about as secure as a screen door on a submarine. It's just not robust. People also tend to choose really common answers or lie and then forget the lie they told.
Huh. Yeah, I can see that.
So why bother with this easily guessable trivia quiz?
Good question. So what's the alternative for account recovery then?
Ditch the trivia quiz entirely if you can. Rely on stronger recovery methods. Often this loops back to using those stronger forms of MFA we just talked about, like having a code sent to a recovery email address. It's also well secured with MFA. Or using an authenticator app, or having backup codes stored securely offline.
Backup codes.
Yeah, many services let you generate a list of one-time use codes when you set up MFA. You print them out, store them somewhere safe, like a safe deposit box. Sure. If you lose your phone, you can use one of those codes to get back in. Much better than what was your high school mascot.
Definitely sounds more secure. So avoid relying on easily discoverable personal facts for security.
Please, it's
Yeah.
just asking for trouble.
Okay, and this really brings us nicely to our 9th digital dinosaur, which kind of ties the last few together. Leaning too heavily on knowledge-based authentication, or KBA.
Right, the whole category.
Which basically means relying only on what you know, whether that's a password, a PM, or the answer to a security question. Why is this the biggest authentication trap?
It's the biggest trap because, frankly, what you know is no longer reliably secret.
Because of all the data breaches.
Exactly. The sheer scale and frequency of data breaches over the last decade have just spilled everyone's secrets online. Billions of credentials, personal details, answers to common security questions that out there on the dark web, easily searchable, easily used by attackers.
So assuming your password or your mother's maiden name is truly only known by you is naive.
Extremely naive, unfortunately. Relying solely on KBA today is like guarding your house with just a single standard deadbolt when copies of the key might have been leaked online for anyone to find. It's just not enough protection anymore.
So if what you know isn't enough, what do we need?
This loops back perfectly to multi-factor authentication, MFA. True, robust security needs layers.
Multiple factors.
Right. You need to combine different types of factors. The standard model is 1, something you know, like that long, unique passphrase we talked about. 2, something you have, like your phone generating authenticator app code or that physical security key. 3, and sometimes something you are, biometrics, like a fingerprint or facial recognition.
The know-have our model.
Exactly. By requiring 2 or more of these different types of factors, you make it exponentially harder for an attacker. Even if they steal your password, something you know, they still need your phone or your fingerprint, something you have or are, to get in.
It's like having a deadbolt, a chain lock, and maybe a security alarm.
That's a great analogy. It's a layered defense. MFA is the crucial defense layer for protecting your digital identity today. It's really not optional anymore for anything important.
Okay, MFA is a must-have, not a nice-to-have. Got it. All right, our final digital dinosaur. This one addresses a really common misconception, especially in the corporate world, thinking that just because you meet regulatory compliance standards, you're automatically Fort Knox secure.
The compliance checkbox trap.
Yeah, companies spend a lot of time and money ticking boxes for things like GDPR, HIPAA, PCI DSS for credit cards. Does getting that stamp of approval actually mean you're safe?
Absolutely not. It's a dangerous assumption. Chasing compliance checkboxes is kind of like acing a pop quiz, but completely flunking the final exam of real life.
Okay.
Meeting regulations just means you've met a certain minimum baseline standard, often one designed to apply broadly, and maybe even a bit outdated by the time it's enforced. It means your paperwork is in order.
But it doesn't mean you're actually secure against real threats.
Not necessarily, no. Hackers don't care about your audit report or your compliance certificate. They care about finding exploitable weaknesses. Compliance frameworks often lag behind the latest attack techniques. You can be fully compliant on paper and still be incredibly vulnerable to a specific modern attack your compliance checklist didn't even consider.
So compliance isn't the goal itself.
It shouldn't be the end goal. Use compliance as a baseline, a starting point. It's important, don't get me wrong, but it's the floor, not the ceiling.
So what's above the floor?
Building a dynamic, robust security program that actually addresses your specific real-world risks. Understand your unique assets, your potential attackers, the actual threats you face in your industry or situation.
A risk-based approach.
Exactly. And then, crucially, you need to regularly test that program. Penetration testing, security audits that go beyond the checkboxes, red team exercises, things that simulate real attacks to see if your defenses actually hold up.
Not just checking the list once a year.
Definitely not. It's about moving beyond just doing enough to pass the audit, to actually doing what's effective to stop attackers.
That's a really critical distinction. Compliance is the start, not the finish line. Focus on mitigating real risks.
Precisely. True security is proactive and adaptive, not just compliant.
Wow, what a journey through the Digital Natural History Museum.
Huh, indeed. Lots of fossils uncovered.
We've definitely dug up these digital dinosaurs from relying on old antivirus and weak authentication like SMS or security questions to thinking compliance alone makes you safe. And importantly, we've shown a light on their modern upgrades. The theme that keeps coming up is clear. You have to adapt. Continuous adaptation in cybersecurity isn't just like a good idea, it's completely non-negotiable now.
Absolutely.
Sticking with these old habits, it really is like trying to drive a horse and buggy on the information superhighway in 2025.
You might eventually get somewhere, but it's slow, incredibly risky, and everyone else is zooming past you securely. And, while we've talked a lot about what to change, it's maybe worth reflecting for a moment on why. Why this constant vigilance, this proactive mindset is so crucial.
Yeah.
Because the threat landscape never stands still. It evolves right alongside technology itself. Attackers are always innovating. So this kind of raises an interesting question for you, listening right now.
Okay.
How do you stay ahead of the curve? How do you anticipate what new habits we might be forming today unknowingly that could become the digital dinosaurs of tomorrow? What's the next SMS2FA? The next security question folly?
That's a really provocative thought. What seems secure now might be outdated sooner than we think.
It's an ongoing challenge.
Yeah.
But keeping that question in mind helps maintain that necessary proactive stance. How do you ensure your security practices evolve with the threats?
That's a fantastic point to leave everyone mulling over. For now, though, we really hope this deep dive encourages you to, take an honest look at your own setup.
Personal and maybe work too.
Yeah. Are any of these old school habits lurking around? If so, now's the time to give them the boot. Step confidently into the future, cyber-aware, cyber-resilient.
Be savvy, be safe.
It's all about embracing that continuous learning, right? Navigating this digital world smartly and safely. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.